And I want to welcome everybody to our Hello Kindergarten program. And we will be recording. We are recording. We will be sharing the link to the recording as well as some handouts, materials and resources. And so what we'll do is we have a page on our website where we will post all of that, and everybody who signed up for this will get an email letting them, with the link to that page to find all the things. If you didn't already sign up for this on our website and you want to drop your name and email in the chat, we'll be sure that you get that notification probably in a day or two at the most. So I'm going to introduce Nancy, our Executive Director, and Laura, our Parent Engagement Director. Laura, you'll be hearing from later, but Nancy has another meeting to go to in a bit. So Nancy, do you want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about Penn and before we go? And Tiffany on our board.
I'm going to say hello because we have yet to see you in person. And so we are looking forward to seeing you next year on campus and at our Penn programs. And I'm also going to say hi to one of our board members, Tiffany Wang, who's on the call here. And she is also a field parent. And I am actually not going to be able to stay long with you tonight because we have another meeting tonight on Zoom, which is for our upcoming fundraising event. It's our annual wine and spirits tasting. And that is taking place on May 1st from 5 to 8 p.m. here in Pasadena. And I would encourage you that if you have an opportunity, if you have a chance to come that night, it's a great way to meet some current PUSD parents. And we honor some outstanding parent volunteers at that event. We'll have the PHS Jazz Band, there'll be a silent auction. But really, it's just a chance for PUSD parents and Penn families to get an opportunity to meet one another so that way you become part of our community that much faster. It is on Sunday, May 1st, 5 p.m. And if you go to our website, or thank you, Susan typed it in there, that's where you can purchase tickets for that event. So because we can't see you now at our programs, hopefully we will see you then. And again, welcome to PUSD. Hopefully you all got into the schools that you were hoping you would get into. And even if you didn't, I think you will find that your experience in PUSD will be a great one. You meet lots of great families or lots of great teachers and administrators, and you're in for a great experience. And we hope that we will see you as volunteers on your own campuses as you go forward. And I'm going to stop with that.
Right.
So, yes.
Thank you. And Tiffany, who is also in the same meeting with Nancy, and do you want to say hi? You are actually a kinder parent this year, correct?
I'm a first grade parent.
You're a first grade parent. Where does the time go?
But I will be a TK parent next year as well with my second, and I had an unusual experience for kindergarten, so I'm not sure that I can offer much because we did it through COVID, but I'm happy to be a point of contact if anybody has any questions. If you're new to field or any school at all, please reach out.
Thank you. And I'll take that opportunity to remind people that we do have on our website parent ambassadors from all the schools. So we have a few parents with us tonight who they'll have them introduce themselves in a moment, but if you're curious to connect with someone at the school where your child will be attending, on our website under Talk to a Parent, under the Schools tab, you'll be able to find and connect with parents at all the schools. So with that, I am going to get into asking our people to introduce themselves. Laura, you want to start and introduce yourself? Laura is our Director of Community Engagement.
Sure, I'll make it quick since I'll be speaking a little bit later. My name is Laura Diaz Allen, and I have been with Penn for now 11 years. And my baby started kindergarten a few years ago. Now they are a freshman and a junior in high school. And I first came to a Penn program before working for Penn because I was a little anxious about what was ahead. I feel like, you know, I've been where you are right now a little bit, and I'm about to get ready for the next transition into college. Anyway, I have lots of things to share with you in a little bit. Welcome.
And then Ms. Wood, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Cherie Wood. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Willard, and I've been in the district since 2003. And I'm also a parent. My kiddos have attended Willard, and I have a 13 and 11-year-old. So I'm excited to be here tonight.
And I'll just note that there is another program that complements this program a week from tonight. It's through PUSD's what they call Parent University. And this program is going to focus a little bit more on the socio-emotional pieces and that preparation that we're doing as parents and how we connect as parents with our children's schools and how we prepare our kids and ourselves for this transition. And the program next week will have a lot more information on kind of the actual content of what's taught during kindergarten and what to expect and some of those nuts and bolts. So we will, again, and when I send out a follow-up email, we'll include the links to that and Parent University and all that good stuff. So we will get that to you. And then we have a couple of parents. We have one who's joining us in a little bit, but we have two parents who are current kindergarten parents here with us tonight right now, I believe. I'm looking at my screen here to find people. Carolina, do you want to introduce yourself? And you're muted. There you go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Very excited to be here because I was just a year ago, I was in your shoes. So my daughter is attending Altadena Arts. She's in the French dual language program. And we are just to add something that we are native Spanish speakers. So I can offer also that perspective. My daughter stayed at home for a year and a half before starting kinder, so she kind of lost some of the English she had, but she had no problem joining and she's loving it. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great, thank you. And Robin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Robin Ellis. I have a kindergartner at Hamilton Elementary, and this is the fourth of my children. I have 4 girls and she's the youngest. So kindergarten is not really new for me, but this is our first year starting kindergarten in PUSD. So that has been a good experience for us. So happy to be here and answer any questions that you all might have.
Great. Thank you so much. So we're going to now, if Jeff is still with us, going to take a few minutes to meet each other. This is the best we can do in this remote environment. It's not as much fun as being in person, as Nancy is always telling me, but it is the best we can do and we're going to make the most of it. So if we can, Jeff, I'd like to go to some breakout rooms for a quick icebreaker. And I'm going to start, I'm just going to share my screen here briefly. What I'd like to do is just have us go into some breakout rooms and introduce ourselves to each other, just sort of your name, where your child will be going to school, if you know that. And just in a word or two, how are you feeling about your child starting school this fall? And I posted, this bit of newspaper article that's on our screen right here is from a year ago, almost exactly a year ago today, when kids were first coming back to campus from, in 2021 in the spring. And they were doing health checks at one of the schools, to make sure kids were feeling healthy. And this one staff member who would be asking, how do you feel? meaning, are you feeling healthy? And she kept getting the answer, excited, because these are kids who are coming to school for the first time in a while. So I'm going to take my screen share off. Oops, let me see. I didn't even share that. I realized I just clicked to it and didn't share it. So I apologize for that. Try to do better in a minute. It's been a while. But Jeff, are you able to put us into breakout rooms? And then will we need to go back after the breakout rooms in order to do the language?
Yes, I'm sorry, what?
I'm sorry. So what I'd like to do is go into breakout rooms for a few minutes, and it can everybody can be randomly assigned to a room. If there are any Spanish speakers that we know of, we should put them in a room together with Laura and Ada. And we're just going to take a moment to introduce yourself, your name, where your child will be going to school, if you know that, and what, in a word or two, how are you feeling about your child starting school this fall? Okay. And I'm going to go to share my screen for a moment.
Did everybody come back? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Let's wait. Let's wait. Just want to make sure.
I think we're missing people.
Okay. It may be a moment for people to come back, so I will wait.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
It was taking a little while to get out of our rooms. I was about to start telling jokes.
Okay. Let's see. Are we back yet? Let me see how many people we have. I think we might be back.
This looks good. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for everybody. I heard in our group, I heard nervous, I heard excited, and variations on that theme. So if anybody had any other particular responses that you want to share out from your group, please do. But I think we're going to get into our agenda a little bit, because we have a lot to cover. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Okay, am I now? Let's see if I'm sharing here. Can you all see my screen? Yes, okay, good. So I'm going to skip past this. So basically, this is what we're going to cover. We've done the welcome and introductions. We're going to take a little time with Ms. Wood, Ms. Sherry Wood, who is going to talk about how the kindergarten teachers, what they do in those first few weeks of school. So how they orient and assess their new students to the classroom. And then Laura will talk a little bit about how we as parents or caregivers can be preparing to embrace this transition. I will talk a little bit about how we engage effectively as parents with our students and our children's teachers once the student is in school. And then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. And so I'm going to go ahead and let Ms. Wood take the floor, as it were. And do you want to start with talking a little bit about what happens in the first few weeks and how you orient children to school and the classroom and establish those routines, and what you're doing during that time?
Sure. All right. Well, hello, everyone again. Just a heads up too, there were a couple questions that came up in our breakout room. And so those are in the chat. Some people put them in there. So if anyone can answer those. But yes, to the first few weeks of school, before the first few weeks of school, I have a suggestion. I know our school is starting an in-person tour. I'm assuming some of the other schools are. So I would encourage you to go tour the school, and that helps your kiddo, see the school. Also, there should be, most of the schools have, at the end of summer, before school starts, there's going to be either like an ice cream social or a back to school picnic. When you see anything come in the mail about that, or meet the teacher, I encourage you to attend those, because that will really just help start that relationship with your child's teacher, and help them to be really comfortable when they come on the first day. So when we start on the first day, sorry, I saw the chat pop up. When we start on the first day, you know, I have a little routine that I would do with the kiddos and parents. I have the parents come in, and we had to do it a little bit differently this year. I'm hoping we go back to the regular plan next year. We'll see. Usually we have the parent walk the child in. We have a little activity that they start the child engaging in, and then give their hugs and kisses and go. And then we start with learning our classroom, looking at our environment first and taking classroom tour, looking at everything that's in our classroom, getting familiar with it, finding the bathroom, you know, where to use the restroom, the rules in the different areas of the room, how to use the materials. I'm going to slow down because I start talking fast. And learning the different areas of the room so they can feel comfortable and safe in their new environment, and getting to explore those areas. And then, so we start with a classroom tour, and then we'll go out and, you know, explore the school, go learn how to use the materials on the playground, and then venture out and take a school tour. That's one of the big things that we do in the first couple of days, is just get acquainted with each other, play some games. We sing a lot of songs in kindergarten, and we start with our names. And so learning each other's names, learning what we like and our favorite colors and all that kind of stuff, just to get familiar, to start build that classroom community, start to get to know each other. And then we talk about, you know, how to use our materials. And so how, you know, how to use our crayons and our pencils, and how to take care of our materials. So just really establishing, you know, what our materials are, what do we use in the classroom, getting to know our peers, getting to know the people in the school. You know, I'll introduce the kiddos to who the principal is, what she does, who the custodian is, so they know the people that work in the school are not classroom aides, but our playground aides. If we have classroom aides, that's great also, but playground aides, introducing them to the playground aides that will be helping them on the playground. So meeting all the people in the school and really just helping them be comfortable and safe in their new environment. The first day and week, I see your question pop up. The first day and week in a dual immersion kinder class is going to be very similar. So they're going to be establishing the classroom routines, getting to know each other, getting acquainted, and in the language, you know, that they're going to be learning. And so if it's a Spanish DLIP, then they're going to be doing those things in Spanish for the majority of the day. So it's really similar. School supplies, good question. There is not a required supply list, but we will give a suggestion. We'll take a lot of donations. That's something, you know, we'll send a wish list, but we don't have required supplies. The school will provide the pencils and the crayons, the scissors. But, you know, I joke with my parents, I don't know if your kids eat the glue sticks, but we go through glue sticks really quick. They don't eat them. But we go through glue sticks really quick. So that's a hot item for donating, Clorox wipes. So most teachers will send a list of class supplies that we really use a lot of. But as far as individual supplies, we'll make suggestions, but we don't give a specific, we will provide most of the materials. I hope that answers that question that just popped up. So yeah, so playing a lot of, if that helps, playing a lot of games, doing a lot of songs, you know, establishing our classroom environment, getting familiar with our classroom environment, establishing our classroom rules, depends on the teacher. Sometimes a teacher already has her set of rules. Sometimes the class community comes up with their rules together, depends on the teacher. We already have our school set rules. We talk about those. We are safe, respectful, and responsible. That's district-wide.
Okay. Do you want to go on and talk a little bit about the assessment piece?
Yes, and I see another question pop up about communication, and I think we're going to be talking about that further, but
we will, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to the communication piece for sure.
Okay.
But it's fine to put, if we miss any of the questions when all is said and done, if they're in the chat, we will make sure to respond to them in the follow-up email as well. So perfect. Not to worry. Okay, let's see here. How do I make this move?
Shall we ask
if there's
any questions on routine before we? Any questions on the routine? Okay. So as far as assessment goes, we'll come back. Oops, I popped up there we go, the chat box. As far as assessment goes, we do, we're informally assessing your kiddos, as soon as they walk in the door and throughout their school day. And what that means is an informal assessment is, watching how they're interacting with their peers. So more socially is done informally. Watching how the kiddos interact with each other, seeing where they might need a little bit of support in guiding interactions. And cognitively, that's more of a formal assessment where we sit down one-on-one with each child and we'll see, if they know their letters, their numbers, shapes, colors. And let me tell you that in kindergarten, it's so wonderful because we have a wide range of ability levels. And we have kiddos that come in each year that don't know their letters yet, or we have kiddos that come in that are reading. So there's always this wide range that we teach in kindergarten. And so that's why it's really beneficial to do these one-on-one formal assessments so we can really guide and see where each child is academically and cognitively. And then we can guide the learning to meet their needs. And we call that differentiation, where we differentiate their learning. So what that might look like in the kindergarten classroom is, at this point in the year, we're starting to write. At the beginning of the year, it's more learning letters and sounds. But at this point in the year, we're starting to write a sentence or two. And so, so what that would look like at journal writing now is I might have a kiddo that is still, writing just a few words, and I might have a kiddo that's able to write 2 sentences on their own independently. So that's where we differentiate a little bit.
Let me intervene with just a follow-up question about those assessments. Is it likely that a parent would get any sort of communication from you during those first couple of weeks in regards to either the social or cognitive assessments that you're doing at that point? Or in most cases, is that not going to be, it's just something that you're doing in order to inform how you teach? Can you say a little bit about that?
Sure. It is for the most part, guiding how we teach in the first few weeks. Since we're establishing routines, that does take a few weeks. We will have parent-teacher conferences, and those are usually in October. So it's a couple months into the school year after we've already established our routines and procedures and developed our classroom community. But, I will be communicating with parents. There's many ways that we can communicate at drop-off and pickup. Through the Remind text app. So if there are specific concerns from the parent or myself, then we'll be communicating those. But a more formal communication is at the parent-teacher conference, which is usually at the beginning of October.
Great, thank you.
And then piggybacking on the assessment piece, there are 3 report cards a year. And so we're a trimester system, and so there's 3 report cards a year.
I'm just looking. So we had a question. I'm just checking the chat real quickly. Does a child need to be reading and able to write sentences before entering kindergarten? I think your answer already was no.
No.
So,
right. We will be learning our letters and sounds. The goal is to be able to write 2 to 3 sentences by the end of kindergarten. So they do not need to be doing that coming in. Don't worry at all.
Okay. So hopefully you can stay with us. I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and turn us over to Laura, who's going to talk about, well, hello, who's going to talk about what we can be doing to prepare to embrace this transition, what we as parents can be doing. And I'm just going to say, to our experienced kinder parents who are here, if you, we're going to stop periodically to just sort of ask if you have a perspective to share on something we've talked about. And so we'll give you that opportunity, and then we'll try to save some time at the end of each section for questions. And you should also feel free to respond to those, Ms. Wood, or parents, Robin, Carolina, and Adriana, if you're with us. So I'm going to let Laura take it next from here.
Okay, so I'm going to start with I'm going to set up an imagery here. When our kids were born, right? Some of us were all prepared for them, maybe with a nursery that was all color coordinated on all the right things. Some of us perhaps just were not. Either way, the baby came, right? So this is a little bit of what's going to happen. Kinder's coming, right? Whether your child is reading or hasn't even picked up a pencil yet, whether we're ready or not ready, it's going to happen come August. So I think the first thing that I want to say to everybody is that it is most important that we prepare ourselves emotionally, right? Like, this is going to happen. This little babies going to a big school, they're going to kinder, they're going to learn lots of things, they're going to be in a bigger classroom, there's going to be rules and expectations, they're going to have fun, right? But it's like a new level of experience that they're going to have. So I think it's just really important that we make peace with that, so that we embrace it, and that we don't share any anxiety with our children, because they're really smart and they pick up on that. And then if we're anxious and apprehensive, then they're anxious and they're dreading it. So I think it's just really important to have a little pep talk and say, hey, this is going to be great. It's going to be all right, and convey that to our kids, and have lots of talks about how exciting this moment is, and how they're going to be a big kid, and how they're going to go to this new school with lots of new friends. So I think that's the number one thing in terms of getting prepared. A lot of us think about the academics, but there's a big piece that's emotional, and that's quite important. Okay. The other thing we want to do is get our homes ready. And I say this because, again, just like kids are very different, homes are very different, right? Some of us may already have established routines, a long time ago, with a time for bedtime and bath or reading, whatever, a bedtime and get up time. And depending on whether our children have gone to preschool or have been home and what kind of preschool they've gone to, the expectations have been a little different. So in maybe some preschools, you could drop off anytime. Others maybe were stricter. And kinder has a beginning time and has an expectation that kids will be there every day. And so in order to make that easier, our home needs to be set up so that just life is easier. And so I know for me, I wasn't super organized. And when kinder started, I learned that I had to get myself organized pretty quickly. I had to have a dinner time that was the same every night. And then after dinner, there would be, a bath and a book reading and a lights out time. Oh yeah, thank you, Susan.
Sorry, I wasn't sure.
No, that's great. So I found myself looking for something like this, something simple that I could have my child follow, that was visual. And because most of our kiddos are not going to be reading yet, we need, the pictures, and they could check it. I also found that my spouse needed to be on board. Just a second. Mikey, that spouse. I needed my spouse and grandparents and whatnot to understand the importance of my child getting enough sleep so that they would be ready for the next day. I need to, hold on. Okay. So that they would be ready to start their day well. So I would say that before we even focus on any kind of academic stuff, this is the place where we want to be focusing. Just having that routine that's predictable, because in kinder, that is what happens during the day, right? Yes, start times. So I think still schools, do we still have late and early schools? I think we still do, right? So some, I know Hamilton started at 8:45, but some schools start earlier.
Yeah, you'll get that information from the school.
Yeah, we switched for the pandemic, so I'm a little confused, but Ms. Wood, what time does your school start?
We start at 7:45. So there are some schools that start at 7:45 and some schools that start at 8:45.
Okay, there you go. And I think most schools are early starts and a couple might be late starts. Because my family was never going to get there on time, I specifically chose a late start school, but hopefully you're not that family. But if you are, you'll have to modify your routine a little bit so your kids are getting enough sleep. So what we did to figure out the bedtime schedule is we counted, and I think I'm going to need the next slide. Do we have one on the hours that they need to sleep?
I don't actually have that, but I will share that.
Okay. So we counted because research says that kids this age need to sleep between 10 and 12 hours, which seems outrageous, right? But that's what they need in order to do well, most of them. And so if school starts at 7:45, you have to count backwards a little bit and figure out, okay, how long is it going to take me to drive there? How long is it going to take to have breakfast and to get dressed and all that stuff? And so once you kind of figure that out, then that's your wake up time. And then you're counting 10 to 12 hours before that, right? And so say you have that kid that needs to sleep 12 hours and school starts at 7:45 and you can maybe get them up at 7, then technically bedtime would be 7, which is really hard to pull off. I kid you not. So I hope you have a 10-hour kiddo, but they'll be somewhere in between those two numbers. The way you know how much your child needs to sleep is they wake up on their own and they're happy and they're functional when they've slept enough. If you have to wake up your child, they haven't slept enough typically. So I think this is an important thing to start working on right now if you don't have this in place. It is a little challenging in the summer because it stays light out until so late. And so kids don't want to go to sleep so late because it's light out. I actually had to get dark out curtains, like to trick them like little birds into going to sleep. So I would say this is really important, and I'm happy to answer more questions about it afterwards. It took my family and other families that I know a little bit to get this to run more smoothly. And if you have older children with sports schedules and all that, it does get a little tricky. And you may find that you're having dinner at 6 like you planned, but it's not at home. It's, you're having dinner at 6 on the side of the soccer field or whatever. So you do your best basically with this. Okay, so that's our routines. In terms of getting, all right, so here. So what is required of us as parents is not so much that we teach them the things that the teacher will teach them, right? Because that's what the teachers are for, but that we do send a teachable child who's ready to learn. So the better they are physically and emotionally, the more they can, the more able they'll be to take advantage of the experience. So once they start kinder, plan on having them there every day on time. They should be awake. They should be healthy, not hungry or thirsty. Some kids refuse to eat in the morning and that gets really tricky. And then you just pack extra snacks. In a good frame of mind, again, that it's so important to communicate to them how fun there can be and how much they're going to learn so that they want to be there, right? And to talk a little bit about, how they can do this. They're big kids now. They can learn stuff. Self-help skills. One thing you ought to know that is different from preschool is teachers cannot help kids into the bathroom. So whereas preschool teachers might have been able to help kids, kindergarten teachers are not allowed. So if your child is not confident using the restroom on their own, that is something that you'll want to work on. I also do recommend that you have, if your kid is not super confident with their potty training, or even if they are, that you send an extra change of clothes. It's a helpful thing to have. And I will just say, especially boys, for some reason, I think they have a harder time sometimes. The other thing you'll want to do for your kiddo is send them in shoes that they can put on and off on their own. At this age, kids cannot usually tie their shoelaces. And so you'll send them off to school with tied shoelaces, and maybe they come back with tied shoelaces. Guess what? They came untied and that teacher had to do it. And if there's 26 pairs of feet or whatever, then that's a lot of time for teachers to do that. So send them with Velcro or slip-on shoes until they're a little older. And then the other couple things are to listen and be able to follow instructions. Again, that's you're doing as a parent. If this is your first child and they haven't had an opportunity yet to, do this out of your home a lot, or if you've kind of been babying them a little bit, just make sure that, they are getting an experience listening to instructions and doing them. And so if you say, I need you to do this thing, don't do it for them. And then this is a little trickier for some kids, the ability to sit still and keep hands to themselves. Kids this age really like touching their friends. So we had to work a little bit on that, and, just sitting in your own space and your bubble, keeping your hands to yourself. And they may not really get this before they start kinder. And sometimes it might get them into trouble, but you can shoot for this, right? Okay, I think that's that for now. Any questions about what I've just covered?
Yeah, I'm gonna just open us up, and also if any of our guest parents want to chime in with what comments on your experience of what Laura's just been talking about, feel free to just unmute and chime in.
Yeah, so maybe I will add, related to what you said about shoes, also clothes in general. So for example, I bought these pants for my daughter, and after buying them, I realized that the button that it had, it was difficult for her to do it like on and off, I don't know how to say, but unbutton and button her pant. Yeah. So that was a no. Like after I realized, okay, she cannot go with this, and then be conscious if it's cold in the morning but hot after. So the general idea for them to be comfortable all day. Then socks. I don't know if this is all schools, but at least in Altadena, sometimes they take off their shoes and socks during class. Depending on, I realized that even though the shoes had Velcro and I made a good job with that, some of the socks, she couldn't put them back on. So I went and bought socks that she could do it herself. Yes, and I think in terms of routine and everything is that in my house, we are both full-time working parents. So you need to try to do what you can as well. So sometimes that may mean takeout. And we have like cheap places that for example, Mondays for us are usually rough starting the week. So we have this nice, healthy, but cheap Mediterranean food place that we buy food on Mondays, for example. And we have our pizza documentary night on Wednesday, just to help us as parents keep that routine, but also keep our jobs. So yes.
Yeah, so about the clothes, I do want to add that different schools may have different uniforms or school colors that they require. And so what I will say is find out what your school requires. and try to get it in the summer before your child's size is gone. So that is important. I will also say, I'm trying to remember now, I had boys, they were always wearing at the knees of their pants. And a neighbor suggested to me that I go out, buy them 1 or 2 maybe pairs of pants, like new, and then go to a thrift store and get them extras. Because unless you want to be doing laundry all the time or want to be sewing patches on their pants or whatever, like you're just going to need extra. So consider making your life as easy as possible, so that your kid can be ready to go in the morning without a lot of fuss. So that's one thing. The other, just like preschool, you want to send clothes with their names on, especially jackets. I can't tell you, there are jackets at schools that they belong to nobody. They've been there all year. Every year this happens. So label their jackets and anything that comes off, and do make sure that they can put on and off, pants and jackets and shoes and those kinds of things, because it's a little different from preschool. The ratio of children to adults is not quite the same. So that's important.
We had
lunch.
A question about
lunch somewhere.
Yeah, go ahead.
And bathrooms. Yeah, so lunch. There was a question before about whether kids eat their lunch. Some don't so much. They want to go play. What you can do as a parent is make sure that they can open things on their own. So when you're going out to eat like fast food or whatever, don't open the juices for them, see if they can do all these things, because when they are one of, I don't know, 50, 100 kids, if they're waiting for someone to come and open it for them, it's less time that they have to eat. So that's one. The other is sometimes they just don't eat enough and they're hungry after school. I used to always pick them up with snacks in my purse or in my car, always, because otherwise it would be a meltdown. So that's just something to consider. Bathrooms. Most kinder classrooms have a bathroom that's attached to them, but not all. I think Ms. Wood has something she wants to add, but they do go in pairs.
I can't find the hand button here. I'm trying not to be rude and just
That's okay. That's fine. Jump in.
Yeah, I saw a lot of questions on the restroom, so I thought that would be good. It depends. So I would suggest when you go to your school site for the kinder orientation or whatever your school has at the beginning of the year to meet the teacher or to see the school campus. That's something I would ask, or you could go on a tour and ask also. But most kindergarten classrooms have a bathroom nearby, if not right next to the classroom. And that's another thing that we practice at the beginning of the school year is where the restroom is, how to use it. And if they do have to walk a little bit of a ways, then they'll practice walking with a buddy. And that will all be practiced. But please really practice. I love how you're saying about, opening everything. That's a big key, is practicing, unbuttoning your button. There's so many different, depending on what school you go to, there's, like the little sliding pant, they have like the little slide instead of the button. That's sometimes the first, that's the easiest uniform to wear first before they can do their button. Always pack an extra reusable water bottle. A lot of schools right now, we don't have access to the drinking fountains. So I would say that's a big piece, is to pack a reusable water bottle, an extra jacket, extra clothes.
Yeah. Do any of our other parents want to chime in with a comment on any of this stuff that we've been covering? Just want to make sure there's a space for that.
Sorry, can I add something?
Sure.
Two things. One is that for the first few days, and it's related to the bathroom issue, like sending an extra pair of pants, and could be, and just for your kid to know they have it in their backpack, could be a good idea. And then another thing in terms of things to buy, that I was on the lookout for this teacher list of things and it never came. They were provided with everything. The teacher then, when classes started, she would send an email each week where she would sometimes have a wish list, but that didn't happen before the first day of school. So, I mean, it's fine. You don't need to buy anything. The only thing I would say is the backpack, that it's big enough to fit a folder in it, because sometimes they say songs, for example, in the case of Altadena Arts, that comes with them on Fridays. And then the water bottle, that's very important to bring each day. And then the lunchbox. And then one thing that was very useful for us is for the colder days to have a lunchbox that can keep the food a little bit warm. So that's just what we did.
They don't have to bring their lunch. So schools will have food. And, you know, I don't know how it is now, but, you know, before the pandemic, you could pay if you wanted your child to eat there, or they would qualify for free or reduced lunch if you had filled out the form. And then right now, everybody's getting free lunches. So I don't know what it'll be like next year. We've done both. We sent lunches at times. A lot of times they just ate at school. The advantage of them eating at school is obviously you don't have to pack the lunch, and they always think your cooking is amazing. So, so my kids ate at school a lot. The backpacks, though, they just have to be big enough for them to fit a folder, but don't get them a big backpack. They don't need it. So, and do make sure that you put their name on the backpack, because many kids have the same exact backpack. Same thing with their water bottle, and maybe a sticker in case they're not recognizing their name. Any questions?
We had a question about healthy food. There are usually fresh vegetables, fruit, and vegetarian alternatives. Anything with about food allergies, I think you mainly need to let your child's teacher know about that.
Depending, just so you know, depending on how severe the allergy is, some schools will have a designated classroom that's peanut free, for example, or nut free. I know at Hamilton we had a table where my child ate, and it was just because they couldn't chance it that somebody might bring a peanut butter sandwich from school and sit next to a child that had an allergy. So that you want to make sure that you clear with the school. And that you know what the plan is. And if your child requires an EpiPen, you need to talk to the school about that. So, and I think this is an introduction for anything that is particular about your child. If your child has a disability, anything that you feel like, okay, my child's a little different from what I think the other kids will be, or my child requires something special, it's important to communicate with the school and with the teacher in particular. And I'll just say, it wasn't kind of part of the talk, but if your child has special education needs, if they have an IEP, I recommend that you bring an extra copy for the teacher to have in the classroom. They may not always get these documents at the right time. So anything that's interesting or special about your child, make sure that you communicate with the teacher and the nurse, and if necessary, the principal, depending on what the issue is.
And I'm actually gonna take that as a segue, and I'm gonna go back to sharing screen for a moment and just talk a little bit about our role as parents once things get going. So why did it do that? That was not what I wanted. Let's try this. Hold on. Sorry. Find where we are and start there. Okay, there we go. So we often hear that parent involvement is really critical to student success and school success, but that can mean different things in different people's minds. So involvement sometimes sounds like we have to be there on the scene every day, or somehow we should be trying to micromanage our child's school experience. And so I often like to use the word engage instead of involved, because it conveys that what we're doing is we're paying attention, we're ready to step up as needed, but we're still able to respect the professionalism of our children's teachers, the school administrator, and other staff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the parent-teacher relationship. And again, I invite Ms. Wood or other parents to chime in when I get through this slide with their own thoughts or examples. So I think that the things that are important to keep in mind, just to keep it simple, are communication, respect that teachers are professionals, and that your role is important, but it's a supporting role, and to think of it that way. So in terms of communication, it's really, it is very important to be reading and listening to any messages from the teacher or from the school. And those may come in different forms. Sometimes it's a recorded phone message that you listen to at the beginning of the week. It may be something that comes home in your child's backpack. It may be remind or text or email. Make sure that your contact information is current, that the school and the teacher have your current contact information. So if you're not getting any messages at all, that's a good cue to check in and see whether that's they do in fact have your information. And then, find out from the child's teacher, how do they prefer to receive communications from you? Because if you have something you need to convey, maybe it's just something that's happening at home, or something that you've noticed that you're concerned about, or something that the teacher did that was wonderful. You may want to communicate with them, and that's important. So knowing how best to do that with your particular child's teacher. And then I do want to just stress the point about teachers being professionals. You know your child and his or her circumstances best. And the teacher has to work to understand and meet the needs of all the children in the classroom. So that takes time. It requires a very specialized sort of expertise. And so you can bring to that what you know about your child, how they're responding to what's happening, if you have any concerns or questions, but don't, even if you are yourself a teacher in your day job, really be sure to talk with and treat the teachers that your child has this year and throughout as the professionals that they are. And then the most important role that you as a parent play is the role that you play at home. And that was sort of the stuff that Laura was just talking about, with the routines, with making sure that your child has enough sleep and something to eat and a snack and clothes that they can manage themselves. All those things are hugely important. And then if you have the time and the inclination to go beyond that to volunteer, right now, parents are not actually, volunteers are not coming on campus for the most part. That hopefully will be different come fall. But again, it has to be, what does the teacher want or need? Maybe they just need some glue sticks or Clorox wipes sent in. But they may need or want something else. And if you have something to offer, if you have some time and can offer, that's great. But just make sure that you're doing it in the spirit of what is going to be helpful to you, the teacher. And I'll just pause there and see if anybody has a comment on that, maybe Ms. Wood or any of the parents that we have with us tonight. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Let's see. So let's see here. So that's the parent-teacher relationship, and then when we talk about parent engagement, we have a whole some other programs that we do about this, but we think of it as sort of a pyramid. With the most important, the foundation is the child-centered engagement, and that's all the things that you're doing at home and in getting your child to school on time, rested, ready to learn. Setting expectations, letting the teacher know if you have a question or concern, And so those are the most important pieces of parent engagement. And then beyond that, you know, there is helping at the classroom level. There are groups that PTA, many people have heard of, Parent Teacher Association, but also groups that are working with particular concerns or groups or areas of the school community. So English learners, parents of English learners, there's something called the English Learner Advisory Committee, or ELAC. There's an African American Parent Council. There is at the district level a Community Advisory Committee for Special Education. So there's a foster youth council. So there are a number of ways that you can connect with other parents at the school or district level as well. But those are kind of as you have the time and interest. The critical thing is your child-centered engagement. And I think, you know, having said that, I would just add that, you know, it's important to, while you're focused on your own child and what they need, just to remember that those needs have to be met in the context of all the kids in a classroom or at a school or in the district. And again, that's where sort of really, if you have a question or a concern and you want to bring it to your child's teacher, and that usually is the place to start if you do have a question or concern, you know, just be aware that it's not all about your kid. It is for you, but it is, you know, they are part of a community and you are part of a community. And with that, I'll just sort of point out that the school community is a real gift, I think. You know, we say we're sending our children to school so that they can learn and grow up to lead full lives. But the truth is that schools also bring families together. And hopefully by this fall, there will be a real chance for that to physically happen on our school campuses again. You know, so it's important that when you get involved, or at whatever level you get involved, that you're supporting the school in a variety of ways. You're harnessing the commitment of that larger community to support the school, the staff, and the students. You know, it's important that all families are informed enough and have a voice in the decisions that affect students. And it's just an opportunity to get to know each other. I think we naturally tend to gravitate towards other people who feel, for whatever reason, either look or sound or somehow seem to be like us. But the beauty of public school especially is that we come in many different shapes and sizes and languages and experiences in life. And it takes a little time and a little bit of willingness to go outside your comfort zone to get to know somebody who's not obviously just like you. But it's so worth it. It's worth it for you. It's worth it for the school community. So I want to just, you know, let that happen. Let it, you know, give it the time that it takes. It's not going to be instantaneous, like you're going to be suddenly best friends with everybody. But, you know, let your child take the lead in meeting new friends and making new friends, because they will. And just sort of enjoy that aspect of being part of a public school community. And I'm going to stop sharing.
Susan.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add something that, whether you all know this or not, just by attending one of our programs, we kind of consider you already part of the Penn family. So, so welcome to the Penn family. What is a Penn parent? We have lots of programs in which we talk about what it means to be, you know, a Penn parent, what it means to be kind of engaged in a certain way or involved in a certain way. And it is really a way of thinking, right? And it's that we want the best for our child, and we also care about all the other kids. And it's a way to approach situations and problems with kind of an open mind and curiosity, so that, you know, when the thing happens, which it will, something will happen that you won't be happy with, or that will scare you or be annoyed by, that the way in which you respond to that is kind of like, I wonder why it happened. I wonder how we can make it better. I wonder how I can make it better in partnership with the teacher, the school, or the whatever, right? So it's just, I just wanted to add that because when Susan shared the pyramid, Penn parents are, we are many, we're, I don't know, 2,000 now in the district, and we are everywhere. So we're not just supporting our kids at the bottom of the pyramid, but we are involved in the classrooms and the schools and in district level parent committees and as board members. So PUSD board members include parents who started out just like you, sending their kids to public school and got then involved. So there are programs where we go more in depth on this. I just kind of wanted to give you a little taster of what we're about and how we approach whatever it is that comes our way. So there, Susan.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'd really just like to open it up to any remarks. We have actually another parent who joined us after we did those initial introductions. So, Adrienne, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, I'm Adrienne. I have a daughter who is a kindergartner at Sierra Madre Elementary School. She's in the K-1 combined class. And yeah, been having a good experience so far.
Great. And does anybody else want to chime in with kind of what your experience has been? I know this year it's been hard to build community. It's been hard to really find that with other parents just because we haven't been able to be on campus. But does anybody have a something to share about that?
So one of the things I try to make that my daughter is shy, so I'm not sure how much it actually helped her. But one of the things that I try to do is before kinder started, I posted in the Altadena Facebook page or any kind of communication that you have. I don't know if all schools have it, but I posted and tried to communicate with other parents, and I organized some play dates where we actually were able to meet the families. So we hung out together before kinder started. So I think we started building that community before the first day of class.
That's great.
Which reminds me, do check before, do check and look at your school's website and see if they have a Facebook page. Schools vary a little bit in terms of, you know, how informative the website is and whether or not they have a social media presence. But I would be checking that, especially this summer, to see if there's anything posted about any opportunities for getting together. And that's also where you'll find information about the uniform and that kind of thing before they officially send you a packet.
There's also just a reminder on our website under schools. If you look down that menu, there's talk to a parent, and you should be able to find contact information for what we call our parent ambassadors from the different schools. So they can also be a resource for the school that you're going to be attending to learn a little bit more about. Is there a parent Facebook page, or is there something, you know, if you have a particular question, they can often help put you in the get either answer or find you somebody who has that answer. And I'm just gonna stick in the chat before we get too close to 8 o'clock that we have a program participation survey that we like to ask folks to do. It's pretty short, but I hope you will take the time either when this evening or tomorrow to fill that out. It's really helpful for us to get feedback about our programs. You know,
Susan, I want to make sure this doesn't get
summer school
buried.
Oh, yeah.
For working parents especially, thank you, Robin, for reminding us. So Mondays are an early release day for elementary schools. So if your child is not in an after school program, you have to plan to pick them up earlier. I didn't realize that until like after the first week had started. So it's important that you check that and that you know also what time school gets in and gets out. So thank you, Robin.
Yeah.
On that planning note, can I just add something really quick?
Please do.
I think this has helped me as a PUSD parent also, and as a teacher, and many that have been in the district for a while don't realize you can access this, but on the PUSD website, you can click on calendar and then scroll down, and it has all the district calendars, and it even has next school year, and I think the following. So you can click on the district calendar and see, you know, plan out your year. And so you know when all the breaks are and the open houses and back to school nights and all that.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and also so this is the page that she's talking about in the PUSD website, and you have to scroll down below the actual, you know, picture of the month, that current month calendar, but below that there are links to those school year calendars, which are really helpful. And we try to post some of this on our pen calendar as well. So if you're getting our communications or checking our website, we try to put things like when the breaks are, at least, and things like that. But that calendar page is a very helpful thing to see.
Well, also you, if you're going on vacation, you know, closer to the end of the summer, again, make sure you're back before school starts. And also the week before is typically when they have the meet the teacher or the whatever. It's typically the Friday before school starts, but some schools do it midweek or whatever. So you'll want to not miss that if at all possible.
And the first day for students this year is August 11th, I believe, which is a Thursday. And there were questions. Okay, there was a question about Learns, which is the after school program, and whether the sign up for that is available now or only for the summer. And I don't know if anybody here happens to know the answer to that, but I will check and be sure to include it in an email if we don't have that.
Last year, I think it was a few weeks before you needed to contact like the Learns coordinator. And I think until the first week of school, you still had spaces available. But last year, when my daughter started, was a special year. So I don't know if that's how it is every single year.
I would say ask your school if that's what you'll need. Ask now and see what they tell you. I think in general, it is true that you don't sign up until, you know, like next year. But some schools don't have as much room for kindergartners for whatever reason, because I think there's just, I don't know. But so I would just say, make sure and ask your school for after school programs.
Right, and there will be school staff there until the end. The school ends at the beginning of June. Is that correct? I remember that, June 4th, I think. And then there are usually staff who can answer the phone and answer questions until about when? This would
last day of school is June 2nd, Thursday, June 2nd. And then I'm sorry, I was typing. What was the next question?
Oh, just are there staff there that you could ask a question of for another week after that or so? I know the principals are on duty, but that's,
yeah, it's usually about a week. They should answer the phone.
Yeah, so thinking about those questions now and sort of asking in the next couple months before school ends is a really good idea.
So just to be clear, when you call in the middle of the summer, you won't get anybody. And you probably won't get anybody until a week before school starts. So ask your questions before June 2nd or wait until right before school starts.
And go see if your school has a school tour, because they are starting back from what I understand.
Yeah, they are starting some in-person tours. And that's something we do try to post on our calendar. But again, it never hurts to just call the school main number and ask what they've got going on.
This is Robin. I just wanted to jump
please.
in and say our school also had a kindergarten play date a little, maybe a week or so, maybe a couple of days before school started. And that was very helpful too, because they had, you know, different committees and annual fund and all the different, you know, ways to register for, what is it, Aries? So they have a lot, it's a good information opportunity. I don't know if every school does that though, but Hamilton does.
A lot of schools do, and often it's through the PTA. So that is something that is not a bad idea to check with the PTA now to find out what may be going on.
It reminds me, you should know that once your child starts school, you will be given information, like Robin said, to sign up for Aries. Basically, this has gotten a lot easier in the last few years. As a parent, I can access information from my phone or my computer about my child. So for example, if you had a teenager and you wanted to make sure that they were at school every day, you could just check on this magical place whether they went to school, if they missed any classes, what grades they're getting. You can look at the school's calendar. So all of this through the parent portal. But you will have to get a special ID because this is very protected information. And you'll have to go on it and fill out a bunch of information, make sure it's all correct because this is what they're going to use to call you later. But once that's all done, it will be your account for the rest of their school experience at PUSD. And there will be all kinds of things in there that you'll want to check. I really appreciate that my kids, teachers put assignments on this thing called Canvas, and I can see what they are and they can see what they are. It's just easier. Now for kinder, I don't know how much of that happens, so maybe don't expect a whole lot of that, but as your kids get older, there's just a lot that you can check on as a parent from home. So just a very helpful thing.
I just dropped our program evaluation survey link in one more time, but I'm also going to just drop another link, which is the Transition to Kinder Parent University program that is next Wednesday. That's the second link that I just dropped in. And that is, again, we will send out an email follow-up probably tomorrow afternoon or the next morning at the latest with a recording, with our slides, with answers to some of the questions that came up, and a bunch of other links that might be useful to you. Some of the materials Laura talked about, like the sleep, how many hours of sleep your child needs, some tips and suggestions for setting up routines, and that sort of thing. So if you didn't sign up on our website for this program, please take a moment to drop your email in the chat. I think most of you did sign up on our website, so I have your email, which is great. And we'll be sure to share that information with everybody. I wanted to take a moment to thank Ms. Wood and Carolina and Adrienne and Robin for joining us, and our interpreter, Ada Ramirez, and Jeff at Collaborate Pasadena, Pacific Oaks for hosting us, and all of you for taking the time to be here. It's going to be great, and we're really looking forward to seeing you in person. If not at our spring event, then maybe next year at your school or at some other gathering. I'll send out an email if you have any questions that we haven't gotten to or we didn't answer. Feel free at any time to reach out to us at info@pennfamilies.org. You can just reply to the email I sent, and we're happy to try to connect you with the information that you need. Thank you.
We'll stay around for a few more minutes.
Yeah, we'll stay around for a few more minutes, but if you need to go, thank you for coming, and yeah, that's it.
And don't forget to fill out the evaluation. We read those and we make sure that we use that information for future programs.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wood.
Oh, let's see. There was a question about homework in kindergarten. They will talk more about that next week at the Parent University, but do you want to say something, Ms. Wood, since you're still here?
I'm still here. That depends on each school site. So that's something you will get information about at the kinder orientation that your school does, or definitely a back to school night, but it depends on each school site. So it's different at each school site.
But we do have a homework policy. Right?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, just as a kinder parent at Sierra Madre, we have 4 different kinder classrooms, and my daughter's in a Girl Scout troop. So I've met a lot of other parents, and it's very different from teacher to teacher, even within our individual school. So my daughter in the K1 class does not have any required homework, but some kids come home with packets that they need to turn in at the end of each week. So it'll vary by classroom.
Yeah. At our school, we all do the same, but yes, I think that's a specific school question.
But there is, as Laura was starting to say, there is a district-wide homework policy that kind of sets some parameters for how much time is expected.
Yes.
And it's I don't remember what the time is for kindergarten, but it's not very much. And probably
There's
the
some
biggest
time for
thing
reading
is
and
some time for reading with your
and
child.
like no more than 10 minutes or something for kinder, and then they add another 10 each year, something like that. But it will not be hours of homework. And if it is, talk to the teacher, please, because something's off.
Yeah, I will say that it should not. It should. The most important thing is reading to your kiddos and having them practice reading to you once they start reading a little bit more. But the most important is them hearing you read and them practicing their reading. And so it should be just a very short time to reinforce the concepts that they're learning at school.
Carol, you had a hand up. Oh.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's been super informative. I did have a question about the summer program, and that's
right.
So wondering if that could help with transition, or if it's too soon like to do the transition, because then it would be like the timeline, it's like June, like middle of June to middle of July, and then there's a gap. So, and I work full time, so it would be tricky to keep her like another month on my own, or like to pay 2 months of a preschool, like between, like, I don't know what do you recommend? Thank you.
Are you speaking about the program that's by the Pasadena Educational Foundation?
Yes.
There's an intro to kindergarten.
Yes.
I have friends that have taught that in the summer, and I know it's really beneficial, and it helps the kiddos have a little bit of experience in a room that's going to be similar to their kindergarten room. I don't know if any parents on here have had their child in the program.
They're great programs, but if you're working and the childcare is an issue, you know, do what you need to do for yourself. Also, the PEF has summer programs every year, so it's not just for incoming kinders. My kids went to them for years and they really liked them. But yeah, it's not all summer, and I don't think it's completely, I forget what their hours are, but it's not 8 hours. It's like 4 or something.
Yeah, I think there
no,
is
like, and then it would be like, I would have to sign up for like 3 different sessions, because it's until like 12, and then there's like a 12 to 2:30, and then like a 2:30 to 6. So it ends up being like costly, the same as daycare. But I was wondering, like, if for her it would help with that transition. But you've given really good suggestions of like how to connect maybe with parents and the kiddos for school before.
It may help you. I'd say every year I may have a couple that go, you know, so if it feels like it's going to be difficult for you to do, I think you need to do, like Laura said, what's best for your family. And, you know, I don't think you need to do the program if you're feeling, you know, I think you can prepare her well at home. And, yeah.
Thank
but I'll tell you,
it is a great program. I know many people that have used, you know.
They also have it between kinder and first to kind of help kids who just needed a little more reinforcement before they start first grade. I sent one of my kids to that because he spent kindergarten whistling and he needed to catch up on some things. And it was very helpful. So you can always do that if you need to, if you want to.
Thank you. Thank you. And Laura, thank you for all the tips of like calculating sleep time.
Anytime, just reach out. We're here to help and make it easier.
So there's a question about when to register your child for kinder. Are we talking about, is your child starting kindergarten this fall? And feel free to unmute and, okay. So you can register at any time if you're registering for your neighborhood school, for your assigned school of residence. But it is helpful to register sooner rather than later so that you do get those communications and do sort of find out about what's happening at the school, and also just to let the school know to expect, you know, how many kids they expect to have in the fall. So I would say at this point, you know, sooner is better than later. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And again, you know, feel free if you have any questions that come to you later or that we didn't get to somehow in the chat, you know, you can always reach out to us and we will do our best to get you what you need. So that's our email address right there. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll send the follow-up email with lots of links and lots of information. And have a nice rest of your evening.
All right. Take care. Good luck.
Yeah.